the Daniel Cleland Podcast.
Mr. Dorian Yates, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to see you. It's been too long. We haven't seen each other in a year and a half, maybe 2 years even.
Yeah, certain events conspired against me getting over to Soltara, unfortunately, last year. Earlier in the year, right out of the blue, I had thrombosis, and still there's no conclusion of why I could have got that. Normally you get it from surgery or traveling or being confined space or something. And all my health markers and blood and everything was always perfect. So it was a big shock out of the blue that happened. And because of that, for a period of time, you can't fly. So unfortunately, that ran into the time when I was supposed to be coming to Soltara. So yeah, hopefully there's no calamities this year, and I can get out there, man. I've been out there with Gal, my wife. I've been with my son, Lewis, and my daughter, Tanya. Now she's 20 years old, and she's very interested in coming for the experience as well. So we had the whole family there if we do that.
Right on, bringing the whole clan.
Yeah.
So you were wrestling with, you had quite a crazy year. You were wrestling with thrombosis. Like, this was kind of during the lockdowns and the pandemic, which was a stressful time.
Interestingly, I don't know too much about it, but I got a friend of mine that's had 3 different cancers, and he got over them without any conventional medicine or any drugs or anything like that. And he follows a system called New German Medicine, where their belief is behind every illness there's a psychological pattern. And the psychological trigger for thrombosis in their beliefs and their diagnosis is like having a ball and chain around your foot. Like, you can't move. There's no freedom. And bang, when did it happen? Like right after the lockdown, which really I found very stressful, because I'm like a free spirit, man, a free bird. I go and do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I've always been like that. I've never worked for anybody. I created this career in bodybuilding, which allowed me to do what I wanted to do and live life on my own terms. And then to be told, like, you literally can't leave your house for months. We could just leave the house to go to the supermarket or the gas station or the drugstore. I'm not saying I complied with it totally, because I got out when I could get out, but it's definitely a shock. And also I could kind of read a lot of stuff that was going on behind it, and still is going behind it, in my opinion. So maybe that was the trigger. I don't know. There was nothing physical that anyone could point to. So there was that, and this really kind of put me into kind of depression as well, which would have been probably would have been great if I could have got out there, got to Soltara and got some help, but that wasn't possible either. And then, I'm recovering from the thrombosis, and I think the fact that I've always been so active and so fit, and all of a sudden I had this thing that could be life-threatening, and again meant I couldn't move again. It's the longest period of my life that I haven't been able to exercise properly. So when I did get over it, I started biking, and I like to bike out here. Good weather, got nice mountains, lovely scenery to go biking. And I went one Sunday morning, and it was not even a challenging bike ride. It was along a nice flat sail on the beach. I went across the bridge. It had something on there. I don't know what it was, whether it was algae from the sea or something, but it was very slippy. Quite a few people fell over on that spot that day. And the bike just went from underneath me. I must have landed on my arm and totally dislocated my shoulder. So the whole shoulder was hanging out the joint. I couldn't move it. And it tore a couple of tendons, it tore the ligaments. So again, kind of back to square one as far as being able to do anything. I was in a sling, doing rehab. I was advised surgery, but I didn't want to do that because I've had surgeries before, and it takes a long time to heal. Yeah. And I mean, you don't know what the outcome's going to be. Nobody can guarantee it, right? So you could be in pain and inconvenience, not able to move, and then take 6 months to get back to where you were, and still it's not much better. So what I'm trying to do is I'm doing a lot of rehab with it and so on to try and strengthen the joints and hopefully be able to avoid the surgery. It's not 100% at the moment, but it's, everyday stuff, it's okay. So I'm getting there, man. But it was a very tough year all around. And so only now I'm like feeling a lot better. And I can look back and try to say, well, what can I learn from that?
Yeah.
Because when you're in the thick of it, there's not a lot of learning going on, because if you're stressed and stress makes you stupid, they can't even think straight. So
yeah,
now I'm kind of out of it and I feel a lot calmer. I'm looking back and seeing what I can learn from that. And being at Soltara will probably be a great opportunity for me to process through that all more, because everything, whether we perceive it to be good or bad, everything has lessons in there that you can learn. So hopefully that's what I'm going to get from it. I probably am already.
Well, yeah, man, it was definitely a rough patch there. We had a conversation one time, I think around July. I think either you called me or I called you. I can't remember, but I was right in the thick of the stress there too. I ended up driving down to Manuel Antonio at like 4 a.m. I just had to leave my apartment because I was just so stressed out with, trying to figure out what's going on. And then I went down there and you and I had a call right in the middle of the pandemic. There was, like in Costa Rica here, everything was still shut. The parks were shut. Ended up going to a luxury hotel and getting the penthouse suite for like 25% of the price, just because there was nobody in the hotel. I was the only guy in the hotel. It was crazy. But yeah, you kind of, on top of the health challenges you've had this year and just the stress of the lockdown, you've also kind of done a bunch of research into different theories about what was going on. So you've got an interesting take on that. Do you care to share any perspectives on?
Yeah, well, it was not really just research that I did when this event started, because I have been following alternative news, or whatever you want to call it, what really goes on behind the scenes in the world. I've kind of been exposed to that a long time ago. So I knew when it started, I didn't know exactly how this whole thing's going to play out, but I knew it's not as extreme as we've been told, that this is a pandemic that's life-threatening and would have shut down the globe for it. I mean, if you look at the statistics, which is hard to do sometimes, because there's been a policy which has almost been passed down. In the UK, I saw one of the paperwork from the hospital that somebody who worked there showed me, and it was how to identify a COVID case. And you didn't even need to have a positive test, which if you do your research into PCR tests, and even the guy that made the PCR test said it's never should be used to identify a virus. And in fact, this virus, COVID-19, has never been isolated. So how can you identify something that you can't recognize because it's never been isolated? So my take on it is it's a global bid to permanently change society. And there's a few things with that. The introduction of AI that's coming in, a crash and a change in the financial system. And people like us, I mean, that have a business, we're under attack somewhat. Because if you've got a small or medium business, you can be kind of somewhat independent from the system to a degree.
Right.
And I think what is being planned is, over the next 10 years, is really a two-tier system where you've got the elite, and then you've got people that are reliant on the government and on their digital currency that they'll be receiving. And I do believe population reduction is part of that plan, and it's not there's been stated by quite a few people involved in this, including Bill Gates himself. He said if they do a good job, and this is his words and from a TED talk or whatever he did, if they do a good job with Planned Parenthood, in other words, abortions, healthcare and vaccinations, they should be able to bring down the world figure population by about 30%. So, there it is. There's some people in control that are eugenicists, and I believe they want to bring in a new society, and those things are parts of the new society that they want to bring in, the new world order or globalization, whatever you want to call it, under the guise of protecting the planet from certain things like global warming that doesn't even exist anyway. So, briefly, that's my take on it. And is it going to happen? I don't know. I hope not. And because the thing is, this situation is bringing pressure to people. A lot of people are in fear, and they're easy to control. But there's a lot of people as well that are waking up, and even if they were not like myself, that kind of were exposed to information before, and they could see a lot of things in history and news and everything, or blatantly untrue, and they believed everything they saw. Even a lot of those people are saying, "Hey, now, listen, something doesn't make sense, and we're losing our freedoms, we're losing our human rights." And maybe that's what's got to happen. And there's kind of a struggle now between dark and light, almost, if you like. And it's funny because I kept saying, when I was feeling stressed and down and everything, I was talking to myself, I was like, man, don't you remember your words at Soltara that you said because you felt inspired to say to people there? And what I said and was just, when you're in that, when you've done ceremonies and you're in that space and you just feel like there's a ton of information coming in and you get inspiration, you're getting downloads, getting all kind of ideas. Even I get business ideas and things like that after ceremonies. It's like my brain is working like a computer. And I said, I think the world is going to go through something, and it's going to be like childbirth. So like childbirth is going to be all chaotic and messy and painful and screams and blood and shit and everything. It's going to be coming out. But then you get this beautiful new life coming out, a new life. That's childbirth. But it's painful and messy. So I'm hoping that that's the road that we will eventually go down. And in order for that to happen, the old thing's got to fall apart, and people have got to be shook up and feel very uncomfortable to change their thinking, their perspective on things.
So how does it feel right now in Europe where you are right now? Do you feel like the last, say, 3 to 6 months have influenced your kind of visions one way or the other? Well,
I can see the plan. By the way, there's, there were, I don't know if you can still find it now, but there was even a whole plan on the Rockefeller Institute website called Operation Lockstep. So all the things they're going to do and possibilities and all the different scenarios were studied, and how many people would not want to comply and what they would do if this happened and that happened, all that stuff. So the information is out there. It's not, you can go find it. So what I can see in Europe is just rolling out more. As far as there was no talk about masks, or initially masks were most of the experts were saying masks don't work. No point wearing masks. And now everywhere is mandating you have to wear a mask, which again is, for me, is another, it's another kind of your freedom to be identified, your freedom to speak, your freedom to breathe the air is being taken away. And people are getting used to it. It's just part of everyday life now. They just wear a mask. And you even see the billboards now advertising a new car. There's a lady there with a car with the mask on. This is the new fucking thing and people get used to it. And I've seen when they had violent demonstrations from Black Lives Matter and Antifa and these organizations, which I don't believe has got anything to do with helping Black lives, by the way. They would basically give free rein to run riot across major cities, smash things up, burn things, pull down statues, loot, and the police stood down. They let them do it. The politicians who ultimately are in charge of the police, which the police are supposed to be there to serve the public. That's originally the idea. Now they're just a private security force for the elite. So they let all that happen. But now you have very peaceful protests against the lockdown measures, against the closure of businesses, and against the possible mandate of all these things. And the police are literally wading in there and beating people up and arresting people for nothing.
Spraying them with fire hoses.
But this is all going on. This is 100% going on, man. I've seen some terrible things happening to people. Women being arrested and being assaulted, being beaten, just for being in a peaceful protest. And the people that are in the peaceful protest are very, how do we say? They're very careful not to get pulled in or, sucked in to reacting violently, which must be sometimes a natural reaction to defend yourself against this kind of a thing. But they're not doing that. And still they're being assaulted and being arrested. I've had the same thing with gyms. A couple of gyms tried to open. There's one pro bodybuilder in the UK called Nathan Diasha. He has a gym in Liverpool. And the police came there and arrested him, handcuffed him, and beat him up, like 10 of them, when he's got the handcuffs on. And this is kind of the behavior that the police... So that must be mandated somewhere. They must be told this is what we need you to do, and they're just carrying out the orders, which happens when people get a badge and a uniform. They feel this sense of power, and it gets out of control.
Mm-hmm.
I got a T-shirt. It's got mushrooms on. How about that? So yeah, I see the agenda rolling forward, and now UK is a lot of, I think nearly 20 million people have vaccinations, and I think what we're going to see there is we're already seeing some people with immediate side effects and some deaths. I do believe that over the next few years that people will be affected by these vaccines, and they'll all get pretty sick.
Are you planning to get a vaccine, Dorian?
Absolutely not. I will do everything I can to avoid having the vaccine. I want to be responsible for my health and what goes into my body. And I don't want, if you look on the list of things that's in the vaccine, how many people do that? It's a fucking joke, man. People are having something stuck in their arm and they don't even know what's in there. There's aborted fetus cells. There's all kind of chemicals. And the new vaccine is not even a vaccine. It's a messenger RNA medicine that's never been tested. And the manufacturers have no liability. They made sure they have no liability for any kind of damages. So why would they need that? So you put in untested things in your system for something that statistically has a recovery rate of around 99.7% across the board. And there's very few young and healthy people without some serious disease dying from this. So it's just like the flu. Old and infirm people and people with the compromised immune systems are at risk, and they should be protected. And that's it. Logically, that's all that needs to happen. So, in my mind, there is no pandemic. I live here in Spain. I don't personally know anyone that even got sick, let alone died. I mean, if it was like the plague or something where we need to lock down the world and be scared of each other. Where's the bodies, man? Where's the bodies on the streets? And a lot of people have been going to hospitals that are supposed to be full and filming them, and they're empty. Mm-hmm. They opened huge facilities in the UK. I think they're called Nightingale hospitals. One in London. I mean, it was a huge temporary hospital with a morgue in there and everything. Guess what? It never got used. It was all there as part of the fear, look, wow, they're building a huge morgue and how many people are going to die and all this stuff. So apparently people under 60 in UK is 300 people that have died. So it's hardly a deadly, there's no reason to lock the world down. I'm not saying nothing exists. I'm not saying nobody got sick. I'm not saying nobody died. I'm saying it comes out in figures about the same as the flu, which, funnily enough, now the flu seems to have disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's happened with the flu? Has it disappeared, or has it just been allocated to a different box on the piece of paper? So they were, I don't know if now, but they were, as I said, I saw some paperwork. So how they diagnosed a COVID patient? It was somebody with breathing difficulties that may have it, but we haven't tested them yet. Okay, yeah, the guy's got cancer or heart disease or something, but yeah, he's got this. So they were putting that on the death certificates. Even the government and the authorities have admitted that now, but it just gets glossed over, and the whole thing rolls on.
Mm-hmm. Are things opening up a little more in Spain right now, or is it still?
It's on and off in Spain. We had the 2 months, which was a total lockdown, and then we're having like partial lockdown on a regional basis. So where I live in Marbella, which is in the Malaga province, right now everything is open until 6 o'clock.
Until 6 o'clock.
2 weeks ago, gyms were not open. Only outdoor facilities, which fortunately there was one or two here, so we could get and go do some training, some stuff. Now the gyms are open, but everything is closed at 6 o'clock. After that, if you want any, food or anything, there's deliveries. But all the supermarkets are open, all the big corporate stores are open, and but everyone's fine with that. But the gyms are not open.
Right.
So it's like if you look for logic in this situation, you just get frustrated because there's none there.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that the smaller and medium businesses are being purposely targeted.
It does seem that way. I've thought that myself, and I've found the same frustration trying to seek logic in in the actions that have been taken around the world. Yeah. Because if you're looking at something that has a low fatality rate for people who are healthy and active and have strong immune systems, but then you intentionally put them in situations that compromise their immune systems, like hyper stress, hyper fear, limiting people's ability to go and exercise, keeping people locked in their house, get seasonal affective disorder.
It's never about the health. The government's never interested in your health.
Right.
When you get to be 65 or wherever it is, in France, I think they pushed it back to 70 or something. That's why they had so many riots in France before this whole thing started. The government's got to start paying you then. So, I mean, if the government was interested in your health, they would tell you to eat a great diet, exercise, make sure you have very adequate vitamin D levels, which is very important for your immune system, and various other things. But they don't tell you that. They're in bed with the pharmaceutical companies. Some of the people in the UK government, they've had grants off the Bill and Gates Melinda Foundation, whatever it's called, for 20 and 30 million. And then their friends are getting all the contracts for the safety wear and all this kind of stuff. So those guys are getting paid, but they're just like puppets. They're just prostitutes that read off a sheet, and they appear to be incompetent and a little bit stupid sometimes. And it's all an act, man. They know what they're doing, and they're working on the behalf of some very powerful groups.
Do you ever see stuff like this in your ayahuasca ceremonies?
I never did, no. I've seen it outside, but I've never had any more further insight into it inside. And you got to be careful, like I go in and out of receiving the information because I basically know what's going on. But if I want to study all day and read this all day, I can find out more information, more in depth, more validation to what I'm already thinking. But it gets overwhelming, and then your vibration, your energy comes down, and that's not good. So you got to find a way to know what's going on, but still try to keep some light and some joy and happiness in your life with whatever you can, with your family, with the people you love, and turn it on its head. If you're stuck at home, okay, then I can take a chance to study more, do something, learn something, whatever. That's kind of like where I'm getting with it. So I'm aware of what's going on, but I don't kind of look at it all day because it's not going to change it too much. I always come back to got to kind of work on yourself, because ultimately that's the only thing you can control. Maybe somebody hears me speaking today and then it sparks something and they go look, and they change their view, and there's another person that's on the right side of the fence, if you like. So maybe me just talking is being helpful to somebody. By the way, you're talking about the effect on people and health. I don't know the figures, but in UK, in Spain, it's okay, because I had a health problem here. I got straight to hospital, and Gal could come visit me. My friends could come visit me. But in the UK, you're not even allowed to go. My son's mom, Lewis's girlfriend's mom, so his mother-in-law, basically, has gone into hospital with some serious open heart surgery, and the family's not even allowed to go in and see her. They're not allowed in the hospital. And then people with cancer, with heart disease, other serious diseases were not being treated. They were being told no because too busy with the COVID patients, which was bullshit. So people were dying from not having treatment. Suicide rates in the UK are 50% up. I don't know what the figure is of that, but it's a lot, man. And this is all down to this situation. People losing their livelihood, their businesses, wondering how they're going to survive, how they're going to look after their family. It's just a lot of pressure for people. And that's, again, the government don't give a shit about you, man. They don't care. If they cared, then they would look at those figures and say, oh, well, this doesn't make sense. But they don't. And you're under some great illusion if you think they do. Look back at history. Since when the government told the truth and cared about people, they never did. So why is it going to be any different now?
Yeah.
Look at how many people were killed in Russia with the communist revolution, and millions and millions of people. So this stuff happens, man. It's happened in the past, and it can happen again in the future.
Yeah. I wonder if okay, so there's a lot of people right now that are experiencing mental health issues, depression, anxiety, a sense of kind of existential dread, because you're constantly wondering, is this going the way of the conspiracies? Is this going the way of the global elite takeover? Is this going the way of climate change, of overpopulation, of rainforest destruction? All of those disasters that we fear that are looming, financial crash, markets crash, currency collapse. And all of that stuff that we hear all the time, whether it's social media or on the internet or on the mainstream news, just this constant pressure of anxiety, forest fires, hurricanes, whatever it is, it creates a sense of anxiety. And I've wondered this a couple of times, if there was a very clear knowledge of what the outcome was going to be, if we woke up tomorrow and heard that, okay, there's an asteroid that's coming to Earth, it's going to wipe us out. It's going there. We have no chance of getting out alive. We've got 2 years or 1 year to live, and we're all going to die. I wonder how that would affect the population. I wonder if there would be some people who, like you said, are aware of what's going on, but can still live life brightly and still enjoy. Like if you knew that there was an asteroid coming and was going to burn the entire planet.
But how would I know that, Dan? How would I know there's an asteroid coming? Because I saw it on CNN?
I guess, yeah.
So, that could be false information in itself. So you never really know. But I get where you're going. What would you do if that was the case? Well,
what I'm getting at is the ability to manage your internal barometer, your internal mindset, your internal emotional state of being, regardless of what miserable circumstances might be around you, whether that's for real or whether that's just perceived.
Yeah, I think it's keep going back to going within. You know, I mean, it's not easy, man. I mean, I do my. Sometimes I kind of go in a phase where I find it very difficult to do, and I'll take a bit of time off. But normally, I like to do some breathing and some meditation every day, and like spend some time outside in the nature, walk with my shoes off, do some things like that. I mean, which is soul free as well. You know, there's no, you don't need to go anywhere to do that. You don't need to pay anything. So you can do all that for free. And try and look after myself. But, I can't sit here with any magic answers, man. I mean, I suffer from depression and anxiety myself sometimes, and goes through phases. Right now I'm feeling better, and whatever's got to happen is going to happen. And I'm just trying to do my part in it. For instance, my daughter, Tanya, I was talking about, she was 20 last week. And normally she comes out a couple of weeks ago, she was 20. And normally she comes out here and spends her birthday with me. And, we have that time together, a father and daughter. And she couldn't do that now. It's like, so again, you're like separating people, separating families. Even in the UK, they've got some rules, like they may have it here. I don't even know, but I don't really pay any mind to it. Like, so only so many people can go to a house, and so many family members and all this kind of stuff. It's insane. And the worst, I feel very bad for the kids, man, because they're growing up in this. Imagine being a kid and you're growing up, learning that you got to be scared of your friends, and you got to wear a mask, and you got to sit separately and not be too close to people. This is hugely damaging. It's damaging to adults. Imagine what it's doing to a child that's developing. What kind of generation of children are going to come out of that? Or is that part of the plan, that they'll just be more compliant and hooked up to AI all the time? I don't know.
Yeah, man, it's just this focus on the singular metric, right? With this COVID cases, and disregarding the harm being caused by the application of the tactics, right? It's almost like if your only goal is to lose weight, and that's the only metric you look at, except your tactics to lose weight are like get addicted to smoking crystal meth, right? And then so like you're not looking at, your teeth falling out, the scabs on your face, like you're just looking at the weight loss. Yeah, right. It's like it's an irresponsible way to
people, I would have thought, but still, fear is a very powerful weapon, man. Fear and repetition. So we had a year of this now, of fear and repetition. And, I see people are scared here because if you don't wear a mask, they start freaking out.
Do they?
Like, you're going to kill them by walking near them or something. They're literally, but if you watch TV all the time and you see the numbers, and it's like a brainwashing program.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're on the subject of cases, so many new cases today, how do they identify the cases? Not people that are sick. It's people that get a positive test on the PCR test,
right,
which is useless. It's just some genetic material that's present in many places. So that's why you had a politician in Austria. He did it in the parliament. He put the PCR test in a glass of Coca-Cola and sent it off, and it got positive. There's a president in Africa, he put it in a pawpaw, which is some kind of fruit from Africa, got a positive. Elon Musk, he did 4 tests in a day, he got 2 negative and 2 positive. So the test is bullshit. It's making scary figures like, there's 10,000 new cases today. So in people's minds, 10,000 people today are really sick. No, they're perfectly fine. They just got a positive test.
Well, statistically,
fine.
Statistically, 80% of those people wouldn't even have symptoms.
No, and like then, but you can pass it on if you don't have symptoms. It's all bullshit. It's all fear. And when you get people in a state of fear, they can't really think, like, they can't critically think. You can't think properly. If I'm really stressed, like, let's just say stress makes you stupid. You can't think. Your brain is going into a kind of reptilian survival mode, reactive. It's not thinking, it's reacting. And that's dangerous. But human psychology and all this stuff, I mean, it's been studied for decades and decades. Like, CIA have got papers they're open now. You can read about all these experiments they did with people. And so, if you've got all this information, you can almost predict how the population is going to react and how best to get them to do what you want them to do.
Where do you see China fitting into all this?
I don't know. If China's the model of the future society, possibly. I don't know if they started. I don't really have a strong opinion on that. But China has the most surveillance in the world. And so a lot of it could be modeled on the Chinese system. That's the theory of some people. I really don't know, but I have a friend in China, and life over there is pretty much normal now. Well, you do need some kind of pass to travel around, which I don't know too much about. Some app on your phone or something. But it's not, at this point, necessary to have a vaccine. So, I mean, he's laughing at me because I'm in Spain and, like, he's in China and he's on the beach and at the mall and all this stuff. So, seems to be that life is a little bit easier after the initial outbreak there, which, again, we don't know too much about because all the news is controlled, especially from China, even more so than anywhere else. And then you got the blatant censorship on the social media platforms and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. Anything that doesn't follow the narrative is seen as a threat, and it's taken down by, fact checkers. Mm-hmm. Or who's checking the facts, and who decides if they're facts or not? And since when is okay? Like, if it's blatantly inciting violence or something like that, I'm sure, take it down. But they're just taking down people's opinions because they don't follow the narrative. So then they have to shift from the major platforms to another platform to keep the information going out there. So it's a constant kind of back and forth. And you won't find out all these things unless you really go look. Mm-hmm. You're not going to find them by what's on your TV. And if you just watch the TV all the time and then you're hearing what I'm saying, you're probably thinking, this guy's crazy. He's read too many conspiracy websites or something. But you're only getting one very narrow source of information from your TV. You might have 300 channels on your TV, but ultimately, all those 300 channels are controlled by one or two groups that are related. If you follow all the threads up and all the companies and news agencies and all this stuff, where the information is coming from. So it's controlled. It's controlled information with one narrative with a little, left and right twist on it. But left and right is like wings on a bird. It's still the same bird flying the same way.
Right on. That's it's interesting to see the diversity of realities that people are living in right now. Yeah. There's even in my own some family.
People that, maybe they're more spiritually in tune or advanced than myself, that they seem to be very calm and not really looking into anything. They're just living and as positive as they can and focusing on a positive outcome. So maybe that's the way to do it. But I definitely got a little bit of work before I get there.
Yeah, I've got 3 sisters plus me, 4 kids in the family. One sister is pretty much full on mainstream. Her husband works for the government, so it's all about the government narrative. It's all about COVID's terrible, lockdowns are good, wear masks everywhere, get vaccines. It's like just basically that the far side of that spectrum. I've got another sister who's QAnon, basically, who's right on the other side of that spectrum. COVID's a hoax. It's all Bill Gates. It's 5G. It's the reptilians. It's, not wear a mask at all costs. It's never take a vaccine. I've got another sister who's kind of caught in the middle. And then, I'm just more of a pragmatist. Like, I'm not denying the existence of the pandemic. Okay. But I'm also pragmatic, thinking like, okay, pandemics happen, things happen. You don't shut down the world for it. This is nature. Nature
in human history, then you've got a guy and people like Bill Gates, who's a eugenicist, and his father was a eugenicist, his grandfather was a eugenicist. So they believe in population control. So the guy that's believing in population control is telling you to take a vaccine to save your life so you can continue living. It doesn't make sense. And look what happened with the people in India and Africa, where Gates was testing out vaccines. A lot of people became sterile. A lot of people got polio. People died. It's like, I got a sister as well, and we don't talk really too much about it. Kind of like visited a couple of times, and I could see that she believes the mainstream narrative pretty much. So, I choose not to I just don't go there, because if somebody is so far away, you're not going to convince them because they already have their position. Right. You can try and share a little bit, and I'd rather just talk to my sister and have a sister-brother relationship and a conversation without having this, like, split us apart, with having opposing views and arguing about it or something. So that's what I do. If I see that people are receptive, I'll share information with them, share my opinion. If they're really not and they're like far away, what's the point, man? Just let them live in their own world. If they want to know my opinion, they can always ask me. But I try to handle it like that.
Sure. How do you think we got so divided like this as a culture?
Oldest tactic going, man. Divide and conquer, right? If all the people are united on something, then it will be very hard to control them. So you divide them into factions. That's what they did with the African slaves in the US. They had a whole policy of dividing them up into different groups. Like, you have the field workers and the house workers, and they'll hate each other because one's got a better life than the other. And then you have the boss guy and then the other guys. And it was a policy that plantation owners sat down and discussed and decided on, like, that was the best way to manage the slave population. So that's what, same thing happens in society. You've got left wing, you've got right wing, you've got, believe in this, believe in that. So, I kind of believe, I respect in people's right to do and believe what they want to do. Just advise them to try to be informed as they can and have an open mind, because what you believe today could be even, I could be wrong about some of this stuff and could call you next week and say, hey, Dan, I found out something else. And, but generally, I think I'm on the right track. And I had probably 20 years of being exposed to this kind of information through books, through videos, and on the world system and the world elites and the plan of Agenda 21, Agenda 30, and all these things. I mean, they're written down. It's under the guise of kind of saving the planet and so on, but it's all there if you want to go look for it.
Have you heard anything about the so-called Great Reset that was being discussed in Switzerland this year?
I haven't heard much about it, but generally the financial system is unmanageable anyway. They're just printing money, and it's losing value every year. So I think what they want to do is to get into a place where it's not recoverable, and then problem, reaction, solution. That's the old tactic. You create the problem, people react, and then you offer them the solution. Oh, there's a financial crisis, everyone's starving, and everyone's lost all their money, and people don't have food, and okay, they're desperate now. We give them a solution, which is what we wanted to happen anyways. And now they'll agree to it because they're in a position where they need it. So I think that may be where we're heading, to a digital currency which can be controlled. And let's say if you were totally reliant on digital currency, and then if you did something that the government doesn't like, they could just turn off your currency, just turn it off. Turn off your, all your everything, just turn it off, and you wouldn't be able to survive, or you'd have to go back to nature. And probably we will get some people that are going to split off and do that as well.
Well, that's similar to what China's doing right now with the social credit system.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that. I haven't discussed that with my friend, but I think you get so much money, or depending on certain factors of where, how you are in society. But I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, it's basically
you don't have to pay income tax.
Basically a series of metrics that essentially judge whether you're behaving as a good citizen or not. And then if you are not behaving, they can do things like turn off your ability to travel, turn off your ability to drive a car, get a bank account, stuff like that. I don't know a ton about it either, but a lot of it.
The question is always, who decides?
Yeah, Big Brother.
Who decides what's a good citizen?
Exactly.
It's somebody that just follows all the rules which the controlling government dictates.
Yeah. And,
so if you want to oppose them, then you wouldn't be able to, or you would, at least you would have to survive independently of anything from the government.
Nor could you even mount a rebellion because there's so much surveillance and so much control, so they can stomp out any kind of uprising right at the root, right at the beginning.
Yeah, that's definitely one future that's planned. Whether we're going to go there or not, I think is up to us as a collective and the way we're all manifesting.
So what should we do then as a collective to better unify ourselves and assemble more power in the face of potentially nefarious forces above?
I think communicating is great, but that's getting a bit more difficult because the main platforms are getting so controlled now. They're taking information down as soon as it goes up. And then people are finding alternative ways to do that. I'd like to see more groups, more mass meditations and manifestations and stuff like that, because it's been proven to work. Like I was reading I think it was Lebanon or some war-torn place. They had a mass meditation there, and within 24 hours, the shooting had literally stopped. So many people focusing on a certain outcome. It's like the Matrix or the computer or the Maya or the reality, whatever you want to call it, is pliable depending on how we're all thinking. So even being informed about the negative plans and possibilities, as I said, it's good to be informed, but if you're in it too much, then you start vibrating on that level almost like it's going to be inevitable. Oh, what can I do? And okay, you're almost helping to manifest it then. And I struggle with that myself to get the balance between that. I'm still working on that.
So you have come out of, for those who don't know, you won Mr. Olympia 6 times, and then your career was put to a pretty quick end as far as competition due to an injury that you got, or 2 injuries, right? You tore your bicep and your tricep, was it?
Bicep muscle and tricep tendon were 2 injuries that I had, which in the end made it not possible for me to train properly and compete in that sport. So that's why I retired. And that was really devastating to me at first, because it was a sport, and there's a lot of sports where people just put 100% in there. And it is, you kind of escape from the world, and you've got this tunnel vision, and you've got this goal. It's all consuming. and you almost don't take part in the rest of life. You're in this tunnel, and you feel like a warrior that's going to battle and all this stuff. And then when it's gone, you're like kind of questioning who you are and what's your role in life and so on. So I went through that, some kind of crisis for a couple of years, and eventually came out of it to say, okay, it is what it is. You did this thing, and life doesn't need to be all that consuming and one-dimensional and focused. You've got freedom now, man. You've got opportunities. You can do things. You can travel and go and do things. And you don't have to be on a schedule. You don't have to eat 6 times a day. You don't have to sleep 10 hours a day if you don't want to. You don't even have to go to the gym if you don't want to. Mostly I want to, so I do. I still enjoy training, always have done. But it kind of opened the doors to a lot of other stuff, and some of it a bit excessive, and I became a single guy. I hadn't been a single guy in my 20s, so like my 20s single years, I basically relived them in my 40s. So I don't know if I told you this story, Dan, but it's a kind of a funny, entertaining story about my first introduction to ayahuasca. And kids, like, don't try this at home. Yeah, I'm just telling you what I did, which was crazy because I was ignorant. I didn't know anything. So I was in Brazil where I met Gal, who became my wife. We did an appearance together in there in Brazil, and we decided to go together to the Amazon and do a trip out there in the Amazon. And I knew a guy out there, contacted him, and arranged for us to go on a boat trip for a few days down the Amazon. We got fish on the boats, and we're going to stop at night, and we're going to sleep, and we're going to see all this stuff. It's lovely, yeah? But before we went, we were in the city, and at this point, I was a party dude, man. I was drinking, I was doing coke and ecstasy and stuff. So I'm in Brazil. Wow, should get some coke. It must be pretty good here. So I got some coke, and I was drinking. The next day, we went on the boat. And I kind of heard of this stuff called ayahuasca, this drink thing that's, supposed to give you all these visions and spiritual lessons and fly through the jungle and a fucking leopard or something. I don't know. Anyway, I asked the guy who was our guide, I said, hey, man, this stuff, this ayahuasca, can you get this? He's like, yeah, I can get it, man. I mean, at a price, right? Everything had a price, and it wasn't cheap. So he got at me. And to this day, I don't really know if it was ayahuasca, but I think it was because it tasted pretty foul and it looked brown. But he gave me 2 little bottles for it. I mean, there was like, when I come to Soltara and do stuff properly now, I mean, we have a shot. It's not a huge amount, but this was like 2 big doses. And they had a guy on the boat who was a native from there, and I was speaking to him, so he should know his stuff, right? He's like, "You're going to do ayahuasca today?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you like to smoke weed, do you?" I said, "Yeah, normally, yeah." He said, "Well, no, today you can't smoke. Today, you can't smoke weed. Just one day." I said, "Okay, good to know, man." He's like, "But come with me. He took me into the captain's little thing in the boat, and they had 3 big lines of coke on there. He took one, the captain took one, and he said, "There you go, take that." I'm like, "Well, I'm doing ayahuasca later on. I probably shouldn't do this, right?" He's like, "No, this is okay. Just don't smoke any weed today." So that was my instructions.
It's a little bit backwards.
For doing ayahuasca. So I did it. I went on the beach. Gal came with me. And I said, "Gal, we just met like a week before or something." So I said, "Look, I'm going to do this thing. I'm probably going to throw up. I might shit myself. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be pretty, yeah? So do you want to come and help look after me? You're going to see me at my worst. So if you still like me after that, then maybe we got something going, right?" And yeah, not surprisingly, I was very, very sick, very ill, vomiting so much. And it was horrible. And I was waiting for this stuff to happen and these visions and these voices, and nothing was happening, man. And I was like, where is it? Where's this stuff and everything? And I thought that I didn't get anything from it. But then afterwards, I remembered there was a voice in my head. It was just saying the same thing over and over again. Stop poisoning yourself. Yeah, but what about the snakes and the fly through? No. Stop poisoning yourself. Stop poisoning yourself. This was the repetitive message that I got. And it was only years later when I gave all that stuff up that the mother kind of came back into my life. And it was actually from a vision of a friend of mine, a lady that I was kind of helping. But she's very spiritually aware. And she was painting, and she said I was painting something for hours. And I saw this vision. And she said there were 3 little Indian guys squatting on the floor with like a bucket and a stick, and they were stirring this stuff like liquid. I don't know what it is, but they were stirring it, and they were just chanting your name. She said, I don't know what it means. Do you know what it means? And coincidentally, before she told me that, 2 weeks before that, my yoga teacher had asked me if I wanted to go to ayahuasca. And I was like, nah, I don't know. I don't think so. I did that before. It wasn't that great. And then I got the lady with the dream. And I'm like, shit, that's ayahuasca. And I've been invited to a ceremony. She said, you got to go. And then sometime later, she had another dream. And she said, I can see you somewhere in the jungle in South America. You're doing ayahuasca and you've got a film crew with you. I'm like, well, you were right the first time. I don't know how this is going to happen, but maybe you'll be right on that one as well. And of course, last time I was out there, we filmed with Generation Iron. So
was that the last time you were here?
I see my journey with Mother Ayahuasca. Like the first time, she was just like, I can't work with you. You're too toxic. Like, stop poisoning yourself. Come back later. And it was years later when the opportunity came again, and I was in a much better place. And that's where it started, man. And then, we started talking about me coming to Soltara, and I did. And one of the camps, we did have a camera crew there as well. So it's very interesting the way these things work. I think it's almost like the plant knows who she wants to come there at this time. And then you hear about people that wanted to come, and then everything was against them, and all the places were taken. And then at the last minute, somebody dropped out and they were able to make it. Stuff like that is always happening at the camps. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a kind of intelligence at work here that I certainly can't understand, but it's way, way higher than our intelligence.
Well, that, I guess, is a good segue to talk about your upcoming retreat at Soltara. You're coming back. Yeah. When is it? August?
August. I don't have the exact dates here, but it's August, and I'm sure that it'll be on the website and everything. And I will, once we firm everything up, I'll let people know on my social media channels and so on. I mean, I get so many people now that are interested that come and talk to me, especially from the fitness world, because they know that I've been and I've done it and we've had the camps. So there's a lot of people out there that are curious and spiritually on a journey, and they see that this could be a part of the journey, or it could help them on their journey. I've done 3 camps with Soltara now, and we got the WhatsApp groups that we make when we're there at the camp. And I'm not on there all the time, but I see like almost daily the people communicating with each other, sharing information, sharing news, sharing videos. And it's like a brotherhood and a sisterhood and a family, that these people that have done this, gone through this experience together, they're kind of bonded together for forever. So that's really nice for me to see that I brought these people all together from all over the world. And now they're like friends, and they're visiting each other and all that kind of stuff. So that's great. That's what we need, man. More of a community. So somehow, definitely Soltara is doing that, and somehow I'm playing a little part in that, hopefully. So that's why I'm excited to be able to come again and bring a new group, or even some of the old faces might come along again. I don't know. Sometimes they do.
Right on. Yeah. It was sad that both you and Dennis couldn't come in November due to different reasons. So it was
I must have been like really hard for you guys, and also very disappointing for the people that were booked in. I don't know what happened in the end.
Well, it was a complicated year, man. All kinds of stuff happened, and we're just grateful that we came out of it in good condition. And we had a bit of a challenging month in November getting back operational again, and with you and Dennis both dropping off, there were a couple weeks that were pretty sparse. But other than that, I mean, things have been great for us here, pretty much. I mean, a little extra complications, of course, due to all the different hiccups that people are experiencing trying to get down here, whether it's travel restrictions or a positive PCR test and they can't come. We have to do that kind of stuff for liability. And but so far so good. So no worries there. But yeah, you're coming down here in August. What else have you got going on? You've got you're building out DY nutrition, and it looks like you're doing a lot of personal training right now too.
Well, I'm doing a lot of training online. I just opened a DY Academy, which I can, making personal plans for people now for their diet, for their training. Some of those people are in gyms, where they're open. Some of them are not. So I've been doing that, which is good because I've been kind of unable to travel. I only just started traveling. I've been once to UK for Christmas, and I've been once to Romania where my business partners are with DY Nutrition. So like every business, we've been affected. The nutrition business, of course, if gyms are closed, people are not taking so much sports nutrition and supplements and so on. So it's been tough for people in the fitness industry, the gym business and the supplement business. It's been tough. So we had our own challenges with that, but we're still standing, we're still rolling. I got DY Academy, which is the online training stuff. And hopefully gyms are opening in the UK in April, maybe some other countries in Europe. And hopefully I can travel more freely and start doing some more appearances. I mean, 2020 was the year of, 2019, I was at Soltara twice. I was in LA, I was in Vegas for the Mr. Olympia, I was in Mexico, I was all over Europe. That's my normal year, man. I'm like, travel quite a bit, which I enjoy, and being stuck in one place, and then for 2 months stuck in a house. It was like torture. So I'm looking, getting back out there more. As I say, I've just been to Romania for a couple of weeks. That was good. Romania is still fairly open. So we went there. I did some personal appearances there, some talks, and a little bit of downtime on the ski resort, which I didn't ski. I don't need to fall over and hurt my shoulder again, but did go out on a snowmobile and stuff. That was cool. So yeah, quite a few things going on. Fortunately, as I said, our business is still okay. It took a hit like everybody did, but a lot of business went under. So I'm grateful that didn't happen, and now we're kind of climbing back up again. So I'm looking forward to coming to Soltara, which is it's amazing, and I feel like even though it'll be quite a long time, I'm sure when I get there, I'll just be like being home again, being family. I can't wait to see the shamans. I've had a couple of different shamans when I was there, both couples, right, a lady and a man, which I thought was great because it kind of brings that balance. And they're all amazing people, man. So it'll be like good to be in their presence. And I don't even know if they get affected by the situation or what they think about it, but I'd be interested to learn.
Right on, man. Well, I'm glad to hear your business is alive still.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you're recovering, almost back to the old Dorian from the shoulder injury and the thrombosis and the stress of 2020. And man, I guess we'll get to hang out a bit in a few months here in person in Costa Rica. Hopefully get to meet your daughter.
Man. As I said, my daughter is going to come, and we'll spend some time there afterwards as well, do some sightseeing and hang out. Such a beautiful place. I really look forward to that, man. That will be, I'll be amazing. And it's been a been a long break for me from doing any ceremonies. It'll probably be like more than a year and a half, like 20 months or something.
Man,
before
people are bringing
Soltara,
a lot of stuff.
Maybe twice a year, I did a few ceremonies. So maybe it's good I've had a break and I have a new whole perspective on it. I feel ready for it now. Like it'll be a good time to become reacquainted with the mother.
Reset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Not the great reset, just the personal reset.
A good reset.
Good stuff, man. All right. Well, brother, thanks for making the time for me today. I appreciate getting you on here.
Always a pleasure, man.
All right, man. Dorian Yates, everyone.
The Daniel Cleland Podcast.
Thank you so much, my friends, for checking out the Daniel Cleland Podcast. We love you and appreciate you. If you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, share it up with your friends and loved ones who might benefit from these episodes. And if you'd like to check out more episodes, we've got some links conveniently placed over there. So check it out, share it up. And until next time, be well. Much love to you. Thank you so much.